National Grid has always been a leader. Thank you very much for joining the panel. But you said something quite succinct there. You said at the end of the day, it's the contractor and the developer community that are having a challenge. And the person who's trying to align those contractors and work with the construction industry and bring them into this fold is Nathan Wood with the Construction Progress Coalition. And they've been working on the Common Data Exchange and been partnering with the Orange Button to try to create the construction synergy with the utilities and with the financial markets. So Nathan, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Dixon. I was just thinking, Aaron, as you talked about the 40%, that I'm sort of representing a good chunk of that 40% of that soft cost waste that we're creating. Because those of you that don't keep up with all the McKinsey reports on construction that come out every few months, I think last one, construction is the second lowest or least digitized industry, just above agriculture and hunting. So we're really setting the bar pretty low for digitization and what's possible, but a ton that we can really learn, and that's a lot of where Construction Progress Coalition, that was started in 2017 as a 501c3 nonprofit, is really around education, that there's so much standardization efforts, interoperability efforts, these efforts that are going on, but just lack of adoption, usually because of, as Jan brought up with the whole, call it the candy analogy or the carrot or the stick, or what there just isn't that incentive structure for the adoption. And so that's really where we've tried to focus is use design thinking methodologies, use sort of other outside ways to bring more perspectives together, just like Dixon's done a tremendous job doing, to really understand the holistic weight of the problem and really create the crises that we need in order to make the changes that are necessary. And so we've tried to kind of reshape and as someone newer coming into the industry and learning all these past interoperability standards efforts, trying to learn from what has been done in the past, but also look at the new thought process of this API interconnected world where it doesn't necessarily have to be one standard or one central system, but it can be this ecosystem of common platforms and sort of this newer way of thinking. So I've learned more every time I have these conversations and learn from really smart people around me, but try and bring as much of the contractor's perspective, the designer's perspective, the liability perspective, even the AHJ that was brought up is something that we bring up all the time. Of if we're not considering that perspective, they might be a huge lever in a lot of this change, and really thinking about the mechanics of how do we make these changes. And so last thing I'll leave you with, I'm sure if I didn't say it, Dixon would, but I'm working with John Killingsworth at Colorado State University. We just put together a proposal for some DOE funding that would be, Jan, primarily working with you and others to really look at the business mechanics, look at creating circular economic business models for exchanging data and for giving away data, because I found it sort of ironic in my research that there was a much better adoption of data submission and data standards in the residential side of solar than there was in commercial, mainly because they had set up an incentive structure that made sense, that you would submit something and get your permit back, or get a if this then that exchange. And I think we're really missing that in the corporate world, because we're brokering much bigger deals and it's a lot more layers and complexity, but excited to kind of dig into that, because I think that is that final frontier that will make all this come together. Back to you, Dixon.
Thank you.
The millennial scare, right? Of, because we didn't have 4 digits in our year, and things that we always miss, right? And I think we're at that point now where we're actually hitting those little things and taking the time to make sure we don't miss them, so we don't have another millennium.
And the contractors that are part of your group, and they're looking for solutions like everyone else, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Zachary Construction, Mortensen. I mean, anybody from any side cares about this. The question is, how much do they care? Do they care enough to muddy the waters or kind of mix things up and really change things? And I think that's the question: is who can and who will drive it? Will it be more government AHJ driven? Will it be more owner driven? Will it be a balance of both? Because I think contractors are more than ready and willing and slightly frustrated, but most of our conversations have led to the fact that contractors really don't care unless there's a reason to care. And so, they may care to track their own data and their own financials to a very high level of detail, but they're not going to share it with a surety or anybody else unless there's an incentive to, right? And so what is that candy that they get for sharing their data? I think if there isn't an answer to that, we're still stuck in the same problems we've had for the last, decade or so.
Well, yeah, and you just said it's the candy, and I can tell you what the candy is. they get access to the financing as a developer, and as a contractor, they get access to the construction job, construction contract. If they're told, Mr. Contractor, you can have this contract if you give me the data, they'll do it. About every contractor I've seen, but they won't do it if they're not asked to.
Yeah. If you give me data, then I give you money or whatever. Yeah. It has to be that exchange. Otherwise it won't happen.
So insurance products, surety products, and financial products, if access to those products are improved by having the data, that's when they'll do it. And it'll be by, as Alfred mentioned earlier, there has to be a bit of a mandate. So if the bank says, in order to get this rate, you have to do this, or the regulators, the HJ say, in order to get a permit, you have to give me the data in orange button standard, that will drive the demand. Everybody's ready to go in. And, you know, I'll run use